Couple of vlogs back, I showed this ring segmented ring cutting chart that I had made up to really help myself calculate or measure how long a segment needed to be every time, depending on what size ring I wanted to make. And I mentioned that I wanted to make a video on how I did this, so I'm going to show you in this video how I made this. It's really simple. It's a bunch of concentric rings with lines drawing out from the center based on the angle that you want to cut the segments at. In my case, I do a lot of 12 segment rings, so 15-degree angles was the angle of order in this case. So, and you can draw this with any angle in mind, just depending on what you want to make most of the time. I imagine you could even add the additional angles to the same chart. It just might get a little confusing if they start getting a little close together. So, anyways, let's go over how I made this. So this is the chart that I've already made. This is the one that I use in my shop. There's a couple of things we'll need to make this, and I'm going to go over those now. So obviously we're going to need some paper, and in my case I've got some 8.5 by 17. This is 8.5 by 17 paper, and all I did was actually tape it together with just the seams slightly overlapping. I just used clear packing tape, and we'll do that here in a second. If you have bigger paper, like chart plotter type paper, then you will skip that step. Here's another thing that's to me makes the job a lot easier. This is a 360-degree protractor, and right here in the center there's a center cross point, so we're going to work from that. But when we go to start making our marks, this will make a lot of sense. Now I've got the camera in front of me, so I'm going to try to do everything with 0 degree facing me, so that way it's in the right perspective for you. Alright, the other thing you'll want is a good straight ruler. I prefer a metal ruler, but anything will really work. I've got one of these engineering rulers as well. Anything that's got a good straight edge, because we're going to need that for drawing all of our lines. And if you've got a ruler that basically spans the full length and width of your paper, it'll make it easier because it'll be less steps, and it will be more accurate by being able to use one single ruler or one single stroke of the pencil, and that'll make more sense when we go to do that. And you'll need a compass, and you can go from as simple as something like this. I think I got this at a dollar store, and I don't know how old it is. I know it's old. If you go to Staples or Office Max, one of the office stores, you can buy one of these better sets. I prefer these Staedtler. Here's just a simple one that they sell, as well as this set, and I think even this set was only like $30. And I have several compasses, but this is kind of the set that I go to, and I'll be using this one right here, and this allows me to get a pretty wide radius, and that radius of course will be doubled based on the sizes that we're going to do. You can use one of these cheap ones that way, but the problem with this is a lot of these will not go quite as wide. This is the max width, or max radius, and that will only make it about 5 1/8. So that's 10 1/4. And if you want to make rings bigger than that, you'll need a compass that can do a bigger diameter or bigger radius. Whereas this one, if I fully max it out, I get about a little over 7 1/2. So that's 15 inches of diameter. So this one here is the one we'll use because it's going to give us the biggest radius that we need. Actually, it's bigger than probably bigger than what we'll need for this chart. And you want a good pencil too. I just prefer mechanical pencils. They're more accurate for me. I don't have to worry about the tip dulling down. You always have a consistent width on your pencil line, so I really like mechanical pencils for that reason. Alright, we'll start with the paper here. And I just overlap it by maybe about a 1/4 inch or so. It doesn't have to be much. Just I don't want the seams butting right up against each other, because then the tape it'll flex right there, and by overlapping a little bit you get more of a consistent sheet of paper. So I'm going to use this clear packing tape. And now I'm only going to do this on the back side for right now, because we want to be able to draw on here. And if we covered this seam with packing tape on this side, we wouldn't be able to draw. The pencil line wouldn't draw on top of the tape. So I'm going to leave these little flag ends of the tape. When we're done, we'll fold those over, and then on this one I actually coated almost the entire page with packing tape when I was done to protect the lines, and also I knew that if I ever got any glue on this, it'd be easier to flake the glue off of the plastic tape. It wouldn't come off the paper at all. Paper is wood after all. Okay, so we've got our piece of paper here now. And I'm going to start with the ruler. And what I'm going to do is, you can either measure from side to side. You can measure from side to side and find your center point. I'm just going to eyeball it, because the truth of the matter is that it doesn't really matter as long as the line is mostly straight, and we're going to reference off of this first line. So I'm going to strike a line just like that. Now I'm going to bring in this 360-degree protractor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to orient. One thing you can do, and I am going to do this, helps where that seam of the paper is. I'm going to go ahead and make a little hash mark right here, and that's going to be my center. That's going to be my center of this whole chart. And that's going to help us align this. So I'm going to align that little cross mark on that, as well as I'm going to make sure the 0 mark is on the line and the 180 mark is also on the line. So once I do that, I know that this protractor is aligned with that line perfectly. Now, in my case, I'm doing 12 segment rings. That's 30-degree divisions, and they're 15 degrees for every every segment. On each side of the segment is 15, but we don't have to worry about the 15. We're only worried about the 30, 60, 90, and so forth. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 0 right here. I'm sorry, right here. Try and do this upside down. And I'm going to mark this. I'm going to mark a little mark at 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. I don't have to mark at 180 because we already have the line there. 210, 240. I do have to mark 270, 300, 330, and then we're back to 360. And now we've marked our 12 segments per se. And now we need to connect these to make our other lines. So these hash marks are now going to allow us to do that. So I'm going to take the ruler, and this particular ruler, yours may or may not have this. It may have this cork on the back, And the problem with that is if you have it corked down, there's a little gap, there's a lip, and there's a tendency for your pencil to ride underneath that and give you an inaccurate line. So I like to turn it upside down and lay it down this way. That way the metal is laying flat and it gives me a good sharp edge that my pencil cannot waver on. It's going to ride right along that metal edge. So I'm going to line my pencil with my first set of hash marks here and here. I'm going to strike that line. Now I'm going to do the next set, and then hopefully it makes sense now why I mentioned having a ruler that is as long, basically as long as the paper you're working with. As you can see, I'm able to strike the line for both of these angles all in one line without having to start from the center and go out, start from center and go out, and so forth. Strike another line on this set. Now here, my tape is probably going to stick, but that's okay. Just get it aligned on those marks. And then the last line, last set of marks. Okay. So you can see now that we have our lines struck for all of our different angles. And we know that we're on 30 degrees each time. And then when making a segmented ring, in this case, 30-degree segments, they're actually 15-degree angles each time for each segment. Okay, now you want to figure out what size rings that you want to work in. In my case, I'm doing rings that vary by about ½ inch or so. So I decided to make my chart ½ inch in ½ inch increments. So I start from the center, put my 0 point for the roller. Let me turn this around so it. So I put the 0 point on my center point, and I'm going to start marking half, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, and 7. Now, one thing I need to check is that since my page is longer this way than it is this way, I need to make sure that I can go out that far. And I can go just to 7 inches. The 7-inch mark just makes it. But I want to check over here as well. And no, I'm a little off. So I'll be able to go to 6.5. I'll be able to go to 6.5 inches, but that's okay. That's pretty good. Alright, so now that we have those marks, we know where we need our rings to be. So what you'll do is you'll take your compass and you'll start at that center point and you'll bring your pencil out to that mark, and you'll strike a circle just like that. And you'll continue on. Keep that point at the same center point. Come out to the next. Now, because of that lip in the paper, I'm going to start away from it so I don't catch on to it. Because if I strike this way, I'll catch the edge of that paper. And you just continue on down the line. This isn't hard, it's mostly just time consuming. But anyways, you get the idea, and you just continue out, and eventually you'll have all your rings. So for time, I'm not gonna finish this one, but I'm gonna pull mine back in, my original one, and I want to show how this chart is really useful. So one of my biggest problems is figuring out how long my segments need to be to make a ring of a certain diameter. So with this chart, it's really easy. Let's say that I want to make a ring 6 inches in diameter. So we know half of 6 is 3. Let me turn the ruler around. So I'm going to put my 3-inch point right at the center, and I see that here and here are the 0 and 6 inches. So that means this is the 6-inch ring. That's the first thing I need to figure out is, okay, that's the 6-inch ring. Now, I want to know how long my segments need to be on the outside edge. So if I'm using that 6-inch ring here, I want to take the ruler and I want to see where the ring and the line cross here, and the ring and the adjacent line cross here. So these are the two closest lines to each other, and where the ring crosses, where it intersects. And I want to measure the distance between those two intersections. And in this case, it's just over. It's maybe a 30 seconds over 1.5 inches. And so when I would go to make a 6-inch ring, I would cut my segments at just over 1.5 inches. I'd probably, to be safe, I would go to 1 inch and 9/16. That'd be pretty close. 1 inch and 9/16 would make it just a tad over 6 inches, but that'd be pretty close. And now I know that when I make those segments that length, when I cut them that length and I put them together, I will end up with an outer diameter of 6 inches. And that formula is true for this entire chart. It's because it's linear. So all I have to do is measure those intersections, and that will give me the outer diameter. And you can use this for inner diameter as well. If you know that you want a ring of an inner diameter of a certain diameter, you can use the same method. You can measure these two intersection points, but you'll need to take into account the thickness of your material. That is going to make it wider, or a bigger outer diameter. So that's just something to take into account when sizing a ring. This chart's also handy if you're making anything concentric. You can lay it down and make sure that your sizes are consistent. And since I did it in 1/2 inch increments, that's very useful to me. And you can make this chart at any increments you want. You can do it at an 1/8 or a quarter or whatever you want if you want that kind of resolution. For me, the 1/2 inch is really is small enough resolution for me, because I'm not really making anything more precise than that, especially when turning a bowl. With a bowl, you're starting with fairly rough dimensions, and then you're refining it on the lathe. So, all right. Hopefully, this was a big help. And if you make one, please let me know. I'd like to see what anyone else comes up with. I mentioned in my vlog that I'd actually drawn this out in CAD, and I'd like to print out some in CAD. I just don't have a printer that will do big enough format. What I may try to do is figure out a way to print half on one 8.5 by 17 sheet, and then another on, and then print out, I'm sorry, this is 8.5 by 14, 8.5 by 14 paper. Print the both halves out and then put them together. So I might try to do that. And if I do that, I will try to convert that to a PDF and make it available for download. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you like this, please like, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Okay, thanks for watching this instructional video on the chart. If you like the video, please like, And if you're new here, please subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. I'm going to try and make more videos like this because I really enjoy finding little tips and little things like this and being able to share it. And if I can, I'll have that CAD file available in some kind of format like PDF that can be downloaded and printed. And I'll find a place to upload that. Probably upload it to my new website that I'm creating for my woodworking. It's kind of a combination of a company website and a site, a repository where I can upload things like plans, stuff that I want to share, royalty free, obviously. If I upload anything there, as far as plans or tips or anything, you don't owe me anything for that. So, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.